welcome to the 2014 Harris County Family Law Judicial Candidate Forum. This forum is hosted by family lawyers. And can you hear me okay? This candidate is hosted by Family Lawyers for Good Judges, which was formed to help support the election of the most qualified and competent candidates for family law judge in Harris County. And this is regardless of party affiliation. You may hear us say that quite a few times throughout the seminar, throughout the forum, and that is because it is one of the most important components and bases of Family Lawyers for Good Judges. My name is Kimberly Levi, and as President-elect of Family Lawyers for Good Judges, I would like to welcome each of you here today and thank you so much for your attendance and participation in what we hope is going to become a very important role in the election of the best candidates for family law judge in Harris County. Joining in this effort, I would like to introduce the current officers of Family Lawyers for Good Judges. And officers, if you might please stand so you can be identified to the people that are here. Our president is Maisie Behringer.
Marcia Zimmerman.
Our representative is Marcia Zimmerman. You know, they was both with an N.
That's Macy down there.
President is Marcia Zimmerman. Maisie Behringer is our treasurer. Our secretary is Sherry Goldsberry. Christina Tillinger is our secretary. Sherry Goldsberry is our technology chair, and Bill Della Garza is, of course, our ethics chair. Thank you, guys. And also, you met our very diligent and helpful assistants who are probably still out front receiving people who are coming. But those young people are Chelsea Tatum, Rachel Duncan, and Travis Duncan. And so if any of you have any questions about the process today, about the organization, please feel free to ask those very good young people or any one of the officers that I've just announced. I believe that each one of us here today understands the very high and important role that the family law judiciary plays in the lives of the citizens of this great county. Unfortunately, the voting citizens, who are the ones who actually are the people who elect these down-ballot candidates, rarely have the information that is necessary for them to make a truly informed vote. Most of the information that they have is based on partisan politics and endorsements that are likewise based on partisan politics. We have formed Family Lawyers for Good Judges because we want to educate ourselves and the citizenry, most importantly, the citizenry, about the qualifications of these judges so that they can actually make an informed decision about who the best candidates are going to be. Now, we've had people ask, so if you're non-political, then why is it that you have formed a political action committee? It's a good question. Fairly complicated answer because there are so many components that are involved in this sort of an analysis, but basically the answer is this. While we are absolutely nonpartisan in our approach to the analysis of the candidates, the fact is that we operate in a political system, and so we must necessarily operate within that system to be effective, at least the way things are currently operating. Becoming a PAC has given us the legal mechanism by which to accomplish the tasks that we very much so hope to accomplish. So you may ask, what tasks do we hope to accomplish? Well, first of all, we would like to raise as much money as we possibly can inside the PAC. And once the judicial candidate forums have been completed, once the personal candidate interviews have been completed, and once the candidates have been vetted as fully as is possible, Family Lawyers for Good Judges is then going to make an endorsement for one candidate in each of the contested family law races going on in Harris County this year. After that, it is our intent to utilize every single penny that has been donated to the PAC to create and mail flyers to send to our citizenry, to blast emails to them, to put up billboards that announce what our endorsements are, to make the rounds of media interviews, and in short, to do every single possible thing that we can conceive of doing to help inform and educate the citizenry of this good county, who are the ones who are electing the candidates in these down ballot races, who the people who actually practice in these courts on a daily basis and have gone through this vetting and information gathering process believed to be the very best candidates for each of these positions. I'd like to visit with you briefly about the structure of our organization. Family Lawyers for Good Judges has 2 levels of membership. Each level of membership is for a 2-year period, and it follows our election cycles. First, a person who certifies that their practice is at least comprised of 50% family law may join the PAC as an associate member for $250. Associate members they receive a 25% discount on any CLEs that are hosted by the PAC, and they get a 1/4 vote in the final candidate preference poll, which will lead to the endorsement that is made by the PAC. Attorneys who certify that their practice is comprised of at least 75% family law may join the PAC as full members for $2,500. Full members, or persons who join as full members, are automatically placed on the board of directors of the PAC. They are able to submit questions and attend the private and personal candidate interviews that are going to be conducted. They may attend all of the PAC CLEs for free. And this is another very, very important part of the organization, members who join as full members must also sign a pledge that because they've given these funds to the PAC to be utilized by the PAC, they must sign a pledge that they will not give money or in-kind funds to any one of the candidates that are running for the races that are being evaluated through this organization. In short, the PAC, the funds that it collects, and the endorsements that it makes become our voice. And I can tell you, it is our intent to make it a very loud voice. We hope to gain enough members that the current pay-to-play partisan election process will come under ever-increasing scrutiny, and that the citizens and lawyers alike will begin to realize and recognize that a form of merit-based system is a far superior way to elect the best candidates for family law judge, and for every other bench for that matter. We realize that not every attorney is going to join us in our efforts. Unfortunately, many attorneys or some attorneys find the current pay-to-play system far too profitable. However, as we know, there's strength in numbers, and that is why our goal is to gain as large a membership as possible, comprised of attorneys who are honest, who are hardworking, who have integrity, and who simply want a fair playing field for their clients when they get to the courthouse. With your help, we may be able to actually make a difference in this and in future elections. And don't forget, we happen to be the most populous county in the great state of Texas. Just think, if we can make a difference here, other counties will not be able to help but take note. We can share our playbook, and perhaps organizations like this can rise up in Bexar County, in Tarrant County, in Dallas County, and basically in every other county around the state where the attorneys and the citizens would recognize that there is a better way for us to find the best candidates for the judiciary for our citizens. So about the program today, we had invited all 12 candidates from each of the 6 contested family law benches today to participate in this forum discussion. We have allotted 30 minutes for each court, as you will note in your written materials. And for that 30-minute period, each candidate will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to make an opening and a closing. And the balance of the time is going to be allotted to questions from the moderator for the court that currently has the floor. And we have appointed a different moderator for each court. Also, a question pool has been formulated from which each moderator may ask questions of the court that they are moderating. And if you haven't already done so, please take a moment to look in your packet of materials, and you will find several pages where you can write down questions that you think are important to be asked of the candidates. And please, you may ask a general question that you think it would be appropriate for any of the courts or the candidates of the courts to answer. You may have a question that you feel is going to be court-specific, and if so, please indicate in your question that it is court-specific. And please hand these as quickly as you can, because what we want to be able to do is collect these materials as soon as possible so that we can put them in the question pool that's already been created, so that our moderators have a chance to review the questions that you think are important to be asked of these candidates. At the conclusion of the court forum discussions, we're going to be having a judicial panel, and this is going to be around the lunch hour, and so of course we've got box lunches for you, so we'll ask that you quite quickly, because we're on a tight schedule today, go and get your box lunch, return to your seat, and the panel discussion is going to then proceed, and it's going to include the Honorable Roy Moore, the Honorable Tom Stansberry, and 2 additional surprise guests. They are going to be speaking on the topic of what makes a good family law judge, which is, of course, one of the reasons that we're here to think and talk about today. So I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. And following that, following the panel discussion of these panelists, you're going to be asked to turn in the completed numbered preference poll by secret ballot that you find in your materials. And we would ask that then you place your ballot and your ballot alone into the ballot box. It's going to be located outside. The big pink sign is going to be in front of it. You just pop them in there. And once all of the ballots have been collected, they're going to be turned over to Charles Gerhardt, the CPA, who has graciously agreed to count the ballots in the presence of 2 members and to certify the results. While the ballots are being counted, Kim Ogg, who is a candidate for the for district attorney in Harris County, is going to be asked family law related questions about the impact on these family law issues by the district attorney's office. And we've got several very, very important questions, because as we know, the district attorney's office and our family law practices interact and intersect on a very, very regular basis. So we've got some questions for her about her thoughts and plans for that. We had hoped to have the district attorney forum proceed in a very similar manner as to the forums that will happen before lunch among the family law candidates, but unfortunately Devin Anderson was unable to attend today. So it's just going to be Ms. Ogg making her remarks, and that session is going to be reduced to 50 minutes. And also for your information, we only benches that are going to be in our candidate poll today are the family law benches, and not the bench for the district attorney. This is more informational for us as family lawyers. Next, after that, Mr. Gerhardt is going to announce the blind preference poll results, and then the forum will conclude with closing remarks. And so a few housekeeping matters for each of us. We would ask that you please, of course, turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. Also, the forum is being videotaped, and so we would ask that you please keep your discussions to a minimum so that we can have a clear audio and video recording of the event. And we would also appreciate it if you would mind holding your applause and not applaud during the opening and closing remarks of the candidates or during the question and answer session, but rather hold any applause that you may have to the end of the forum for each court, as we think that that's going to keep things moving along smoothly for us. And so, with all of that being said, we are ready to move on to the reason why we are all here today, and that is the 2014 Harris County Family Law Judicial Candidate Forum. And I would like to introduce Sherry Goldsberry, who is going to be moderating the first court forum for the 247th Judicial District Court.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's just come to my attention that some of your packets may not have the blank question sheets. There are more up front. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Wells and Mr. Schmoody, will you take your places? Please use the podium. Mr. Wells, you're over here. Mr. Schmoody, you're over here. I promised you one time. Here it goes. Mr. Wells, McCullough. Heads, you want to go first or second? Okay, all right. Mr. Schmoody, you have 3 minutes for your opening.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today. It's certainly a great opportunity. My name is John Schmoody, and I am the Republican nominee for judge of the 247th District Court. Thank you very much, family, law attorneys for good judges. I didn't think about that because your name changed recently. For putting on this outstanding event. It's really a great opportunity. Just a little bit of background about myself. I am a family law attorney. I've handled hundreds of cases in Harris and surrounding counties. I've handled just about every area of family law you can think of. I've handled complex divorce cases, paternity suits, SAPSers, child support cases, protective orders, domestic violence cases, just about every area of family law, you name it, I've done it. I also have an extensive business and financial background. I'm actually a second career attorney. Before beginning my law practice, I served as vice president of a national bank and credit union consultant firm. And in that capacity, it was my job to work with institutions around the country, many of which were in a state of crisis, and turn them around so that they could become effective and efficient organizations. I worked with Andrews Air Force Base, Federal Credit Union, Fort Bliss, Federal Credit Union, and dozens of other institutions around the country. I think this strong business and financial background is directly relevant to what a family court judge does, in light of the fact that they deal so extensively with property issues, especially in divorce cases. Quantification, characterization, and division of assets and liabilities is so extensive in our family court. So having a strong business and financial background, I believe, will serve me well. I also have a teaching background. I taught 11th and 12th grade history and science, and I think that's a good qualification for a family court judge. And lastly, I should mention that I spent time, a year up in rural South Dakota, working with Native American families from the Lakota Sioux tribe who faced alcoholism, drug abuse, and really unthinkable poverty. Some of these are the very issues that we deal with every day in our family courts. So I not only have the experience as a litigator, as an attorney from the inside of the courtroom, but I also have real-world, hands-on experience in dealing with these issues. So in short, I believe I have the experience, I have the qualifications, including the unique qualifications, the extensive business and financial background, and the strong record of service, as well as the vision that's necessary to bring some positive changes to the 247th District Court. Thank you.
Mr. Wells.
Good morning. My name is Clint Wells. I'm also known as Chip Wells, which is why both names appear. I was raised in Houston, and I was scared to death that people that had known me for the past 62 years would hear Clint Wells, then my dad had risen from the dead and was running for judge. I've been practicing law in Harris County for 37 years. During that 37-year period, for the first 15 to 20 of those years, I practiced nothing but family law. That's all I did. In 1990, I went to work with my present law partner, John McDowell, and have been practicing family law and personal injury law, plaintiff's personal injury law, for the last 24 years together, more or less. I am a trial lawyer. That's what I do. I don't necessarily practice in the family courts every day, and you all know that, so that's not a great surprise. But what I bring to this opportunity is 37 years of representing Texas families and individuals in complex matters involving not only family law, but personal injury matters, civil litigation, some business litigation, a little bit of probate, and God forbid I had one bankruptcy court. If having a judge on the bench with experience is important, then having a candidate with 37 years of experience practicing law in this state should be of preeminent importance. I'm running because, and I'm running again in the 247th. I ran in 2010, and many of you all don't know that because I had my hat handed to me by my Democratic opponent in that primary. But I'm running again in the 247th because in 2010, I had come to believe that that was the least hospitable court that we had at the courthouse. And I think that there has to be some restoration of sanity to what we're doing in the Family Law Center and what we're doing in family law cases. I think it's important, and yesterday I had a conversation with the lawyer, and I told him that I thought it was very important that we help this family restore some of their relationship, and he told me that that's not the business we're doing. Well, frankly, I'm not sure I agree with that. And so if I am elected judge in the 247th, we will have some restoration to hospitality, compassion, and reason. That's what I look forward for.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. For our first question, Mr. Schmude, will your court require those you appoint as guardian ad litem, attorney ad litem, or amicus attorneys to personally perform the services imposed by them by the Texas Family Code, Section 107.004D1?
Very good question. Yes, absolutely. I think it is imperative that our appointed ad litem and amicus attorneys perform their delegated statutory role. I think that's very clear. And along with that, I think it's very important that amicus and ad litem attorneys are selected based solely upon experience and the best interest of children. There shouldn't really be any other factor that is taken into consideration there. Appointments in family court cases are so vital. They're so vital to the outcome of cases, and they're so vital to children. So we certainly can't have a system that even gives the appearance of any kind of impropriety. So number one, obviously, yes, I can tell you emphatically that I would require that appointed amicus and ad litem attorneys perform their statutory role. And secondly, I'll take a tremendous amount of care in the decision to make appointments and to make sure that those appointments are based upon qualifications, experience, and the best interest of children.
And Mr. Wells, what is your answer to that question?
Well, I think the answer has to be obvious. Of course you would require it. To require anything less would be to continue some of the practices that are going on over there now, which I think are so disturbing to people generally. The family courts have developed over the last 20 to 25 years a more partisan existence, I think, than any other courts in Harris County. They are the family law section in the bar is very well organized, and I think it has bred some inherent problems that need to be addressed by the more careful appointment of amicus and ad litem representatives that serve the needs of the clients and not the needs necessarily of the court.
Thank you for that. Mr. Wells, under what circumstances is it appropriate for a judge to question a witness, in your opinion?
Read that question to me.
Sure. In your opinion, under what circumstances is it appropriate for a judge to question a witness?
Well, lawyer in front of you obviously can't get the right question out, and it's important to the best interest of either the children or the parties. I think it's incumbent upon the judge to, in some sort of way, ask the right question. If the right information is not being provided, you can't get the proper ruling from the court. And we all know that there are lawyers among us that practice down there that couldn't ask the right question if you wrote it down for them. So sometimes you have to help. But it's not a federal court.
And Mr. Schmoody, what is your answer to the question? Under what circumstance is it appropriate for a judge to question a witness?
I think it depends on the circumstances. I think in answering that question, we should focus on what the role of the judge is as opposed to what the role of attorneys are in the courtroom. The judge, of course, is the finder of fact. The attorneys are the advocates. So if the question centers on fact gathering and filling in some missing information, especially background information, that's acceptable. If it moves into the area of advocacy, then that's a major problem. So it really kind of depends on the circumstances of each case. Again, going back to the point I made earlier, it's extremely important as judges that we avoid any appearance of impropriety. If you start moving beyond the fact gathering role and getting into the advocacy role, that's where you get into a problem.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm going to ask Mr. Schmoody this question, and then I'll ask it of Mr. Wells. Will you have in place an auditing procedure for attorneys' fees, cost bills that are paid for with taxpayer dollars?
One of the things that I have certainly drawn upon from my business and financial background is I work with institutions as a problem solver, and I work with a lot of institutions that are in a state of crisis. And there's one thing I noticed that was in common with poorly run organizations, and that was a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability, a lack of system of checks and balances. I think it's common sense that we have a system that is transparent and a system that has accountability. And there are a variety of ways that we can address that. And this is an issue that affects Republicans and Democrats. As a political candidate, I'm required to report any campaign contribution and any campaign expenditure. It's a public record. It's very transparent. Bringing some of that transparency to appointments and to fees that are allocated to amicus and ad litem attorneys is not a bad idea. Having accountability, such as possibly random audits of pay vouchers, is not a bad idea. So anything that we can do to instill confidence in the system, it's so important, again, that we avoid any appearance of impropriety and make sure that our courts are neutral, that justice is blind, and that our system has as much integrity as possible.
And Mr. Wells?
I'd have to be terribly honest and tell you I had not even given that into consideration. But the answer is obvious. And as I was listening to John respond to that, I was trying to think what kind of an answer I could possibly give, because I hadn't considered it. But isn't that one of those, it's a common sense circumstance that you would be aware of in auditing those matters, but I haven't given any time to sitting down and formulating a plan for how to do that, or whether it's appropriate for me to do that, or someone in the district clerks to be doing that, district clerk's office to be doing that. Frankly, I haven't given that any consideration.
Thank you. And this is my last question, and I'm going to start with Mr. Schmoody. If you believed that a lawyer practicing before you is impaired, what action would you take?
again, it's one of those things that is very contingent upon the facts of each situation. That's a question that really could cover a whole, almost an infinite possible number of fact patterns. Like so many things in life, the correct course of action is usually middle way. I think it's important that we avoid extremes. One extreme would be to micromanage things to the degree that it's inhibiting lawyers in practicing law. The other extreme is not to report instances where lawyers are clearly impaired. I think the obligation and the codes of judicial conduct are very clear about what a judge is to do if it's obvious that a lawyer is impaired. So, like I said, it really kind of depends on the facts. If a lawyer shows up to court drunk, that's a major problem, and that needs to be reported. Corrective action needs to take place. There's no question about that. If the lawyer shows up high or something along those lines, that's a major problem. Corrective action needs to be taken, and it needs to be reported in accordance with the Code of Judicial Conduct. If it's something less than that, some matters probably can be taken care of by bringing the lawyer into chambers and kind of getting to the bottom of it and find out what's going on. So it really kind of depends on the circumstances, but certainly if the lawyer is clearly impaired, I think it's quite clear what the obligations of a judge are.
And Mr. Wells, how do you respond?
Again, I think that John's given the correct response. I can tell you that if I'm the judge in the 247th District Court and somebody is obviously impaired, irrespective of what the code might say, this judge would stop that proceeding. And I would do whatever I needed to do to make sure that the litigants in that case, particularly the ones represented by the impaired lawyer, were receiving fair representation. And if that were to be a problem with anyone, I can't imagine that would be a problem. Frankly, alcoholism, drug addiction, those are medical issues. They are not issues to be taken advantage of by lawyers on one side or the other. And families and children and property rights are involved. And if you have someone have a heart attack in the courtroom, you don't continue the litigation. If someone is impaired and obviously unable to go forward, you stop the process.
Thank you. And now we'll have closing statements and closings. We'll start with Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Just briefly, obviously many of you are concerned about experience, and some of the questions on the preference poll focus on experience. And my opponent has 37 years as a practicing attorney, and he should be proud of it. And Chip is a great guy. I've gotten to know him pretty well over the campaign. He's a super person. But one distinction I think that is fair game to point out is I am a family law attorney. Mr. Wells is a personal injury lawyer that dabbles in family law. He practiced family law back in the 80s, but if you look on the district clerk's website, if you type in my bar number and type in my opponent's bar number, look at the last 3 years. I could only find 4 cases in Harris County that my opponent handled in family courts. I've handled 57 just in Harris County alone, and I've litigated extensively in Montgomery County as well. If you look at the last 100 cases filed in Harris County, you'll see that 94% of my law practice are family law cases. My opponent's is about 20% of his law practice. So I think that's a relevant distinction that is fair to bring up. So I believe that I do have the experience, I do have the qualifications necessary to serve you as the next judge of the 247th District Court. I bring some unique qualifications that I would bring to the bench with me, including an extensive business and financial background that would be very helpful in divorce cases. Having a judge that knows how to read a complex tax return, knows how to read a balance sheet, that understands business law well. I think that's a good thing. I think that's something that's very helpful for a family court judge. I have a strong record of service as well, the teaching background. I spent a significant amount of time in South Dakota with Native American families, dealing with drug addiction, alcoholism, extreme poverty. I think these are qualifications and life experiences that are very helpful for a family court judge. I am married. My wife and I will be celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary in November. We have 2 children, my daughter Allie and my son Tyler. Allie's 8 and Tyler's 2. So having a family of my own is, and I know my opponent has a family as well, I think that's an excellent qualification for a family court judge as well. So in short, in summary, I have the experience, I have the qualifications necessary to serve you as the judge of the 247th District Court, and I have the vision that's necessary to bring out some positive changes that really need to be made in the 247th District Court. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wilson.
I want to echo what John said about our personal relationship during this campaign. I think John Schmoody's a nice guy. And I think, as I told him at the Chronicle interview, that, after I retire sometime down the road, he'll be a great judge. But in the meantime, he needs to gather a little experience. I also told him that if he brought up that comment about practicing family law and how much he does it, that I point out that I have hair and he doesn't. Having said that, the real choice here, ladies and gentlemen, is between a lawyer who has 37 years of experience, has tried cases across this state from Brownsville to Dallas, from El Paso to Beaumont. I've tried family law cases, personal injury cases, criminal cases, and that one damn bankruptcy thing I told you about. I offer you 37 years of experience and an opportunity to change some of the things that are going on at the Family Law Center. If you're very comfortable with what's going on at the Family Law Center and you enjoy that atmosphere and the way things are going, then I would suggest that Mr. Schmoody would be an obvious choice. If you want to return to some sense of reason and fairness and compassion, if you want to have a sense that the judge might have been in this circumstance before and might understand the problem that you have, then I would suggest to you that I would be the better candidate for your selection. As John pointed out, he has a family. Poor guy's only been married 10 years. I've been married over 20. And I've got him one better on that. I've been married 3 times. I have experience raising 2 children from my wife's prior marriage. We have done that successfully. We have 1 child together. My mother was a single parent. I have the life experiences, the legal experiences. I have no particular objection to John. I think he's a wonderful guy. Either one of us, I think, will serve you well and give you the best of our efforts. The choice really is yours between experience and a guy with no hair.